Today we are going to be looking at a set of Angry Birds plushes released by the company Commonwealth. Now these plushes were actually part of my childhood. I love Angry Birds, and I still love Angry Birds from time to time. And how I got into Angry Birds, these plushes have something to do with it. I'm going to tell you the story on how I got into Angry Birds. So the original game launched on iPhone on December 2009, and around that time, like 2010 or early 2011, my brother bought the original Angry Birds on his iPhone, and my mom also had Angry Birds on her Android, even though at the time Angry Birds was not really in my radar. But it wasn't until like July 2011 when my family went to Yogi Bear's Jellystone Park, and we met my Nana and Papa Bob. And we stayed in a small cabin. It was a small cabin, but it was a pretty nice cabin. And I think one of my most nostalgic memories there was staying inside the cabin and watching Cartoon Network. Specifically, the original Looney Tunes cartoons, as well as the Looney Tunes show, because both shows were airing frequently at the time. But that's probably not important to the story. So during our trip, not only did we stay at Jellystone, but we also went to a couple towns, we ate at some diners, and we also went to Silver Dollar City. But there was some stuff to do at at the resort we stayed in, at Jellystone, because one of them I remember fondly was like this clown show. Basically, it was about these two clowns, and they did magic tricks. And since Angry Birds was basically the Fortnite of 2011, a lot of their magic tricks had to do something with Angry Birds. Specifically this one magic trick where so there was a cylinder, this clear cylinder, you can see through it, and inside were red, yellow, and blue feathers, Angry Birds feathers that they would call it. And basically the trick was that the clown got a handkerchief, he covered up the cylinder, and I think he must have said some magic words, and after the magic words, he got rid of the handkerchief, and out revealed 3 small Angry Birds plushes. Those 3 plushes I thought looked really nice, and I wanted to get my hands on those. And so there was also an arcade at Jellystone, and though the only thing I remember there was like this claw machine that had a few carnival plushes, including a giant banana. They didn't have Angry Birds plushes, but they had a flyer inside the claw machine that advertised the Angry Birds plushes that I saw in the clown show, and I was like, oh my gosh, those look awesome, I want to get my hands on those. And so for the rest of the trip, I started to obsess over Angry Birds, and I even played the original Angry Birds as well, and I loved it. And I've always been a fan of Angry Birds ever since that. So basically, in a nutshell, clowns is what got me into Angry Birds. But this isn't the end of the story. So after our vacation at Jellystone was over, we drove away, we said goodbye to my Nana and Pa, and instead of going back home, we drove to Indiana to visit my Grandma and Grandpa Wilkinson's home. They have since moved ever since. Anyways, as I was saying, so on the way to Indiana, we stopped by at a Toys R Us, and I knew exactly what I wanted to get, so I picked up 2 plushes, Red and King Pig, and I still have them ever since. I had them on the trip to Indiana, and I kept them at home ever since. So these are plushes that still hold a special place in my heart, and are also one of my favorite video game plush sets of all time. So let's get down to reviewing these Angry Birds plushes. So the first plush we're going to take a look at is Red. Not only is he my favorite Angry Bird, but he's also my favorite Angry Bird in this plush set. See, he got his tail, his little feather hairs, and the face, man. The face is probably great. Probably the best part. There's his stomach. He is missing those, those spots on, his facial areas, but I think he looks fine without it. Now all 9 of these birds, well, actually, I'll talk about the last bird later, but all the birds in the original plush set had sound in it. They would say 3 phrases. They all said the same thing. But unfortunately, the sound on red, since I used him the most, no longer works. But he is my favorite in the set, as well as my favorite bird overall. Especially since we both have really thick eyebrows. I probably would give red an A+. So next up we have blue. Now, there's actually 3 bluebirds, because you know how like in the original game, you launch the bluebird, and when you tap your phone, 2 different bluebirds would pop up along with the bluebird you launched. There are actually 3 separate characters with different personalities. Their names are Jay, Jake, and Jim, and all 3 of them are known as the Blues. But at the time, I thought that there was only 1 bluebird and that the other 2 are actually just duplicates. So that's why I only bought 1 plush of the bluebird. And now you can see that the problem with these Angry Birds plushes, at least the ones I have, is that they're all made around in the same size, because they were also made as like carnival plushes, and they made them in different sizes. The smallest plushes I have are in the 5-inch scale, and you could tell because blue is supposed to be smaller than red by comparison. And yeah, I am kind of picky when it comes to how characters are scaled, especially with the Sonic characters. But for these Angry Birds plushes, I don't really mind too much, for some odd reason. Some of them no longer have their touch tags, but some of them do have their touch tags, including blue. The front has the Angry Birds logo in black, and the back, see if the camera can focus. On the back of the touch tag, it says copyright 2010, Commonwealth, Toys and Novelty. But yeah, in case if you're wondering, I got most of my Angry Birds plushes at Toys R Us. So, though there are a few exceptions that I'll mention when I get to talking about these plushes. Just like red, blues, the sound effects no longer work. Now next up, we have Chuck. Yellow Angry Bird. Now this was actually a Father's Day gift for my dad, because Chuck is his favorite Angry Bird. But that didn't really last that long, because I started to inherit the plush pretty quickly after Father's Day. He's one of the only birds that has his sound effects working, but the problem is that it's a little low pitch because of the batteries. Yeah, that's the only problem, because the only birds I have that still have their sound effects 100% working are Bomb and Hal. The rest of them, they don't really work properly, but they do still work in some form or another. So, Blue, I'm probably going to give him an A-. Chuck, I'm probably going to give him an A. Next up we have Bomb, and Matilda fell down. So here is Bomb. On the prototype plush, because the original Angry Bird sprite depicts Bomb with a white spot on his forehead. I think it's supposed to be like a shine effect or something. I'm not so sure if it really is, but the prototype plush did have that, and the final plush removed it after the Angry Birds Chrome game started getting its own original sprites. Unless if the earlier release plushes that did came with white spots, but his sound effects were completely. There's nothing much with Bomb. I mean, it's a fairly accurate plush of the black bomb bird, so yeah, I probably would give Bomb an A-. She just dropped, but it is her character. Next up we have Matilda, and she's probably my least favorite Angry Birds plush that I have, because in the original Angry Birds, Matilda is supposed to be egg-shaped because she shoots out egg bombs. But the problem with Matilda is that she's very round, not very egg-like. she's still a okay, decent plush, nevertheless, but she's also the Angry Birds plush I still have that's not in the bestest shape. I mean, the others are in great shape, but I'd say if there was one Angry Birds plush whose condition I'm not too impressed of, it's probably Matilda. She's still an okay plush nonetheless. I think I'd probably give her a B. Next up we have Hal. And this is the original Hal plush that they released because his beak can open up. Later releases of Hal were released where his beak is like permanently closed. And even though it does look better, I think the one with the open beak is a little more charming. Even if he looks weird in the front, but he does look nice on the side. Here's his eyes. And here's his tail. I think the first 5 Angry Birds plushes came out in 2010, while I think Terence, Hal, Bubbles, and Stella came out at a later date. But yeah, Hal is a really good... Oh yeah, I forgot, he's also one of the only Angry Birds plushes I have that has his sound fully intact 100%. So Hal, I'll probably give him an A. Next up we have Terence. Now, I got both Terence and Hal as Christmas gifts. Most likely from a Toys R Us. Terence has those spots all over his body, unlike Red. And just notice that he has like details, like his stress marks are actually like added in. Like they didn't have to add in his stress marks on his forehead, but they actually did. I'm quite impressed. His sound effects are a little low pitched, but they still work. But yeah, Terence is really cool. I think I probably would give him an A+, even if his scaling is, even if he should be a lot bigger than he normally should be. Next up we have Bubbles. Now, I got Bubbles at a Toys R Us, I think one Halloween, since I'm pretty sure he was marketed as an Angry Birds Seasons plush, since he did first appear in an Angry Birds Seasons Halloween episode. There's also another version of Bubbles where like he's all bloated up. I was never able to get my hands on that one, but I did saw them in person when I was at Toys R Us. His sound effects still works, but it's a little low pitched and starting to die out soon. But it is a really nice looking Bubbles plush, even if he should be smaller than he should be. He does look very nice overall, and his touch tag used to be in black, unlike the others which have white colored touch tags. Bubbles, I'm probably going to give him an A or an A+, so that's it for Bubbles. Last up we have Stella. I have a confession to make. This is not the Stella plush from the original Angry Birds plush set. However, this is made by the same company since it's in the same size and same material. This plush of Stella is actually part of the Angry Birds Stella plush set. You can tell by the touch tag, it says Angry Birds Stella, and it came out in 2014, so right around the time the Angry Birds Stella game came out. It was a spin-off game that starred her. I actually remembered seeing trailers for it and getting hyped for its release, and I remembered really liking it, but unfortunately the game was never completed and it's now shut down. But Commonwealth did made plushes for the Angry Birds Stella characters, including an updated one for Stella, which is the one you're seeing in this video. They did made a Stella for the original plush set. However, that one may be a little bit pricey, and I think her sound effects are exactly the same as the other ones. The Stella plushes don't have the sound effects at all. I actually just recently bought her on Amazon for $12, so this was the only Angry Birds plush that I was missing. So now that I have her, I can finally say that my Angry Birds collection is now complete. And in case you're wondering, no, I don't have plans on getting the Mighty Eagle. Like, I don't count him as a normal Angry Bird, and not to mention that the Mighty Eagle, even at retail at Toys R Us, he was very expensive, like $100. But anyways, back to Stella. She's another favorite in the set of mine, especially since she actually looks a lot better than the original Angry Birds plush, because the Stella plush, because she's based on her appearance from Angry Birds Stella, but her appearance in that game is no different to her design in the original Angry Birds game. So, I mean, she can pass off as Stella from any Angry Birds game, especially since this specific plush has, like, the different colors on her feather hairs, while the original plush lacked that detail. Also, the original plush had her eyes half closed, but I think I like them better wide open. There's her long tail. Overall, I probably would give Stella an A+, so it's a really nice Stella plush. So overall, these are really nice plushes made by Commonwealth. I mean, for being a Carnival arcade retail plush company, these Angry Birds plushes are super nice. And I'm glad that they made all 9 of the Angry Birds flock. So, and are these worth getting today? Honestly, I kind of think so. Sure, these plushes are a little simple. Sure, these plushes are not in the same scale. Well, unless if you're getting one in a certain size, since Commonwealth did make these plushes in multiple sizes. These are really nice plushes overall, and I really recommend getting them if you're an Angry Birds fan, or if you're just a fan of collecting video game characters in plush form. These ones will work really nice. Angry Birds is one of my favorite non-Nintendo video game franchises ever. Specifically, the original Angry Birds is the game I tend to revisit the most out of all the non-Nintendo video games I play. And the original Angry Birds is probably one of them. I still have the original on my Android, but unfortunately, Rovio, the company that makes Angry Birds, recently removed the original Angry Birds on the App Store. They say it's for testing purposes, but really, what kind of testing purposes? We don't know, and I don't really think it's going to come back anytime soon. But on the bright side, it has been released in console form under Angry Birds Trilogy, which includes the original Angry Birds, and it is available on a lot of consoles, like the 3DS, Wii, Wii U, PlayStation Vita, PlayStation 3, and the Xbox 360. If I have to say which version I'd recommend the most, I'd probably say the Wii U version of Angry Birds Trilogy is probably the best. But yeah, I'd recommend you play the original Angry Birds, and if you're able to get it in some form. I mean, not only is it one of my favorite mobile games, the only good mobile games nowadays, but it also holds a special place to my heart, and these plushes do the exact same job, because they're kind of the reasons why I got into Angry Birds. So yeah, I don't think these are expensive to get nowadays. I'd say if you were trying to get one tagged, maybe they might be a little bit pricey, but nevertheless, I'm pretty sure you can get them for dirt cheap. And whether you care about the sound effects or not, you probably really don't, since they all make the same noises, but like, the sound effects, whether they work completely or not, may vary in the pricings. So thank you for watching this video. Let me know if you want me to, because I do have some of the pig plushes, let me know if you want me to review the pig plushes that I have. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Now do me a favor and go click the like button down below. And click here to watch another video, and click there to subscribe so you'll know each time we add something new. Until next time, hasta la pasta.